So this was one example of a health field, actually my first that I worked on at my current company, Antero Group. As Dr. Berman said, I'm the public health planner at Antero Group. And we worked on a vendor village in Chinle, Arizona. This picture on the cover slide that I have is actually of the phase 1 site assessment that Mr. Dave Laney and Dr. Berman had donated to help the project advance. And this was our project team. We had a couple students from Dene College that came out. We had the chapter president Myron McLaughlin. In the striped polo is my boss, Eric Nagu. And then we had Shazar from Romania there as well. So we had a pretty good group of stakeholders as a part of that phase of the project. And I was recently looking through one of our marketing presentations. Oh, there we go. And initially I had noticed that this looks a little similar to what you've talked about in this module, the action model, ATSDR's action model. So Antero Group's typical project life cycle starts with assessing what are the issues in the community, solution, how can development address these issues, implementing what are the community health benefits, and monitoring and evaluating what data are needed to measure this change. And then these are sort of the overwhelming text includes a lot of the specific tasks involved at each of those stages. But this project specifically, the Chinle chapter sits at the mouth of the Canyon de Chelly, which conceptually is similar to the Grand Canyon. It's definitely got some very unique cultural elements and historical elements included that make it an incredible place to visit. So if you ever get the chance, I can't recommend it enough. And then this site in the picture over here is right at the mouth of the canyon. So to the left, there's the Holiday Inn Hotel. And to the right, there's actually a small campground that people can use when they visit. But there's no real, they are kind of the gateway to the Canyon de Chelly, and there's really nothing there outside of a sign that would indicate. There's no welcome center or anything like you would find at the Grand Canyon National Park. And so we worked with the Chinle chapter to kind of help develop some concepts of what could be included, how we could use this as a way to educate visitors on the history, the culture, provide places for recreation, a place for vendors to kind of sell some of their goods in a centralized location that's highly visible to tourists, somewhere that would really attract visitors and help kind of boost the local economy as well. So we initiated this project back in 2016 before I had even actually joined the company. And we started with about 2 to 3 years of community engagement first, just really getting to know the community, the Chinle chapter, who all should be involved in this process, and building a long-term relationship so we really understood how we can make this project representative of the community and incorporate engagement at every stage possible. And then we kind of moved into our extensive due diligence phase, looking at the floodplains, making sure that the things that were built there weren't going to be affected by wetlands or flooding or anything like that. We looked at the utilities, the environmental conditions, which the cover page showed the picture of the phase 1 environmental site assessment. And then we developed multiple alternatives. I think there were 3 or 4, possibly more renderings of what the site could look like, where things could be located, basketball courts, trails, things like that. And we continuously engaged the community to get their feedback of where location or where elements were located, if they wanted to move things around a little bit. And then we facilitated interagency coordination. So we involved the Army Corps of Engineers, the National Park Service, the Navajo Nation Department of Economic Development and Tourism, and quite a few other stakeholders to make sure that everyone's interests were represented. And then we also moved into securing, I think it's a little over $750,000 now in grant funding, and we are ready. We have selected a contractor to actually build the vendor village and just awaiting the groundbreaking for that one now. But we began with the assessment phase of the project, stakeholder analysis. We got to know the community, kind of deciding who needs to be included. So we started with some meetings with just the Chinle chapter government, then moved into community engagement, allowing residents and other local people to come kind of voice their opinion about what they would like to see at the site. And then we also did some separate community engagement with vendors because we determined through this assessment that one of the challenges was that vendors didn't have a safe place to sell their goods. They were actually selling them in the canyon, or still now are selling them in the canyon, and there's no cover from heat. There's issues with heat stroke, some issues with people fighting over territory of where they sell things. And so the current conditions just aren't exactly safe, and it's not necessarily always in the most visible locations. So by providing a place that they can go sell their goods that is safe, protected by shade, close to drinkable water, things like that, we're able to kind of help give them a more visible place too. And then we moved into our solution design. I'm going to try, this is actually a video. I've tried multiple times to get it to slow down, but for some reason, our engineer who created this, it's pretty speedy. But this was, I think, one of the, if not the final rendering, it was the second to final rendering that we agreed upon with all the parties involved. But this will give kind of an overview. I'll try to point things out as it flies speedily through. Try not to get too dizzy. There's a little retention pond down on this end with a trail system through it to kind of help alleviate some of the flooding from the wash. Bike racks, parking spots for tourists, vendors. These are all of the vendor stalls out here on the sides. There are public restrooms with showers to the left. A nice roundabout with some wayfinding so people really know this is the Canyon de Chelly, this is why we're here. Some basketball courts to the left. They incorporated parking spots for tour buses and school buses for field trips. Another set of showers. And then across the road over there is where the campgrounds are. So they would be able to also utilize the showers and restrooms there. And then the trail system would connect everything all together. Little playground too. But that was one of the final renderings that everyone kind of agreed upon. Oh, we don't need to play it again. There we go. And then we moved into the implementation phase. So we did the phase 1 and phase 2 engineering for the site. I was not a part of that because I am on the planning side of things, but our engineers did quite a bit of work coming up with the multiple renderings of the different options. We did a lot of site due diligence with topography and geology to make sure that the site wouldn't flood, go through all the work to build it, put it together, and then if it floods, that doesn't do anybody any good. And we moved into the environmental site assessment, which was, again, the cover page, which allowed us to then move to bid the work for construction. And they did select a contractor, and hopefully any day now they will be breaking ground on that to actually implement everything. And now we kind of get the unique piece of being able to monitor and evaluate. That's why the front end of the project with assessing, getting to know your community can be so important, because a lot of times contractors will come in, build something quick and easy, get out, and have no idea how things turned out after. So we're able to look at things like revenue generated, key health indicators like did heat stroke, incidences of heat stroke go down, gaining stakeholder feedback to really see if the community feels that they benefited from the project, and looking at things like visitors per year as well. And the nice part about being able to monitor and evaluate, if the community kind of lost the buy-in and support that they had for the project for any reason, or they feel that they aren't adequately represented, we are able to kind of initiate that cycle all over again, assessing, so where did things go wrong? How can we change that? And how can we make things right? So it definitely demonstrates an ongoing process that requires pretty close coordination with your diverse set of stakeholders. and making sure that your project outcomes are representative of the vision that was identified initially.